Have you ever wondered why, despite all your efforts to become stronger and more resilient, you still feel like something invisible is draining your inner power every single day? The great Japanese philosopher and warrior, Minamoto Yoshitsune, discovered something that most people never realize until it's too late. The habits that destroy our inner strength are not the obvious ones we can see, but the subtle patterns we practice unconsciously, believing they protect us, when in reality, they are slowly eroding the very foundation of our character and willpower. Today, I want to share with you the 10 most dangerous habits that are secretly destroying your inner strength, and more importantly, how Yoshitsine's ancient wisdom can help you identify and eliminate them before they rob you of your true potential. This isn't just another motivational video. This is a deep dive into the psychological and spiritual mechanics that determine whether you become truly powerful from within or remain forever dependent on external circumstances for your sense of strength and security. Before we begin this journey together, I need you to do something important for me and for yourself. If this resonates with you, if you've ever felt that invisible drain on your energy despite doing everything you thought was right, please hit the like button right now, because your engagement helps this wisdom reach other people who desperately need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel if you're serious about building unshakable inner strength through proven philosophical principles. And most importantly, I want you to comment below and tell me which of these habits you think might be affecting you the most, because your honest reflection not only helps your own growth, but creates a community of people supporting each other on this path to true strength. The first habit that destroys your inner strength without you realizing is the constant need for external validation, what Yoshitsune called the poison of borrowed worth. Let me tell you about a student I once knew who seemed to have everything going for him on the surface. He was successful in his career, well-liked by his peers, and always received praise for his accomplishments. Yet he came to me feeling completely empty inside, unable to understand why despite all the positive feedback from others, he felt weaker and more insecure with each passing day. This is because every time you seek validation from others for your decisions, your worth, or your direction in life, you are unconsciously training your mind to believe that your strength comes from outside sources rather than from the unshakable foundation within yourself. Yoshitsune taught that true warriors never fight for applause, but for the honor that comes from knowing they acted according to their deepest principles, regardless of whether anyone noticed or approved. When you constantly seek approval, you create what he called the dependency trap, where your sense of power becomes tied to other people's opinions, making you vulnerable to manipulation and emotional instability whenever that external support is withdrawn. The practical application of this wisdom means learning to make decisions based on your own moral compass and inner knowing, celebrating your victories privately before sharing them publicly, and developing the courage to stand alone when necessary, because real strength is measured not by how many people agree with you, but by how firmly you can stand by what you know to be true, even when the whole world disagrees. The second devastating habit is the illusion of busy productivity, where you mistake constant motion for meaningful progress. Yoshitsune observed that many people exhaust themselves with endless activity because they fear the confrontation with silence and stillness that would reveal the deeper questions they have been avoiding about their life's direction and purpose. This habit is particularly dangerous because it feels virtuous and responsible on the surface, while secretly undermining your inner strength by preventing you from developing the capacity for deep reflection and strategic thinking that true power requires. When you fill every moment with tasks, meetings, and distractions, you never give your mind the space it needs to process experiences, integrate lessons, and develop the kind of wisdom that can only come from contemplative practice. The warrior philosopher taught that strength without wisdom is mere brutality, and wisdom cannot develop in a mind that never stops moving long enough to truly see and understand what is happening both within and around itself. To break this pattern, you must learn to distinguish between urgent tasks and important work, creating regular periods of intentional stillness where you can connect with your deeper purpose and ensure that your actions are aligned with your most essential values rather than simply reactive responses to external demands. Now I want to pause here and speak directly to you watching this video, because I know that as I describe these habits, you might be recognizing some uncomfortable truths about your own patterns, and part of you might want to click away or dismiss this information because it's easier to stay in familiar patterns than to face the work of real transformation. But I need you to understand that recognizing these habits in yourself isn't a sign of weakness or failure. It's actually the first sign of the inner strength beginning to awaken, because only a person with genuine courage can look honestly at their own patterns and choose to change them. This moment of recognition is precious and powerful, so please don't waste it by getting discouraged or overwhelmed by how much work lies ahead. The third habit that secretly destroys inner strength is the practice of emotional avoidance, what Yoshitsune described as the coward's path disguised as wisdom. This happens when you consistently distract yourself from difficult emotions through entertainment, substances, excessive work, or even spiritual practices used as escape mechanisms rather than tools for growth. Many people believe they are being strong by not dwelling on negative emotions, but Yoshitsune taught that true strength comes from the ability to face and process all of your emotional experiences with clarity and courage, because emotions contain essential information about your values, boundaries, and the changes you need to make in your life. When you habitually avoid difficult emotions, you rob yourself of the opportunity to develop emotional resilience, and you create a backlog of unprocessed experiences that will eventually demand attention in more disruptive ways. The path forward involves learning to sit with discomfort without immediately reaching for distractions, developing the skill of emotional observation without being overwhelmed by what you discover, and using difficult emotions as teachers that can guide you toward the changes that will align your life more closely with your authentic values and deeper purpose. The fourth destructive habit is the comparison trap, where you measure your progress against other people's visible achievements without understanding the full context of their journey or the hidden struggles they have faced. Yoshitsune warned that comparison is the thief of both contentment and motivation, because it prevents you from appreciating your own unique path and developing the kind of self-knowledge that comes only from paying attention to your own growth over time, rather than constantly looking sideways at what others are doing. This habit is especially dangerous in our current age of social media, where people share only the highlights of their lives while hiding the struggles, failures, and boring everyday work that real achievement requires. When you habitually compare yourself to others, you lose touch with your own progress, and you start making decisions based on what looks impressive to others, rather than what actually serves your own development and deepest values. The antidote to this poison involves developing what Yoshitsune called the inward gaze, where you become more interested in who you are becoming than in how you measure against others, focusing on your own growth metrics like consistency, courage, and alignment with your principles, rather than external markers that may have nothing to do with your actual strength or character development. The fifth habit that undermines inner strength is the pursuit of comfort as a primary life goal, which Yoshitsune identified as the slow poison that kills the warrior spirit while promising safety and ease. This doesn't mean that comfort is inherently bad, but when avoiding discomfort becomes your main strategy for navigating life, you systematically weaken your capacity to handle challenges, take risks, and grow beyond your current limitations. Every time you choose the easy path when the difficult path would serve your growth better, every time you avoid conversations that need to happen because they might be uncomfortable, every time you stay in situations that feel safe but don't challenge you to become stronger, you are training yourself to be weak and dependent on circumstances remaining favorable. Yoshitsune taught that the warrior's strength is forged in the fire of voluntary discomfort, where you deliberately choose challenging paths not because you enjoy suffering, but because you understand that your capacity to handle difficulty determines your freedom to pursue what matters most to you without being limited by fear. The practical application means regularly choosing the harder option when you know it serves your growth, having difficult conversations when they are necessary for your integrity, and viewing discomfort as a training ground for developing the kind of resilience that allows you to pursue your deepest purpose, regardless of external circumstances. Let me share with you a story that illustrates the devastating power of these habits when they work together. I once knew a woman who seemed to have mastered the art of living a successful life according to external standards. She had a prestigious career that earned her regular recognition and praise. She stayed constantly busy with projects and social commitments that made her feel important and needed. She carefully curated her social media presence to showcase only her achievements and happy moments, and she had organized her entire life around maintaining comfort and avoiding anything that might disrupt her carefully constructed routine. Yet despite all of this apparent success, she found herself waking up every day feeling more anxious and empty, unable to shake the sense that she was living someone else's life, and that her real self was slowly disappearing beneath all the performance and productivity. The breakthrough came when she realized that every single one of her daily choices was being driven by fear of what others would think, fear of being alone with her own thoughts, fear of facing her real emotions, fear of not measuring up to others, and fear of discomfort, which meant that despite all her achievements, she had no idea who she really was or what she actually wanted from life. This is how these seemingly innocent habits can combine to create a life that looks successful from the outside, while being completely hollow on the inside. And why Yoshitsune emphasized that real strength must be built from the inside out, rather than borrowed from external circumstances. The sixth habit that destroys inner strength is what Yoshitsune called the perfectionist prison, where you set standards so high that you paralyze yourself with fear of failure and rob yourself of the learning opportunities that come from taking imperfect action. This habit masquerades as high standards and attention to quality, but in reality, it often serves as a sophisticated form of procrastination and self-sabotage that keeps you from developing the kind of resilience that comes only from facing real challenges and learning from mistakes. When you wait until you feel perfectly prepared, or until conditions are ideal, you miss countless opportunities to build confidence through experience, and you train yourself to be dependent on external circumstances being just right before you can take meaningful action. Yoshitsune taught that the warrior's strength comes not from never failing but from the ability to fail quickly, learn efficiently, and continue moving forward with greater wisdom and determination. The path beyond perfectionism involves learning to take action with incomplete information, viewing mistakes as valuable data rather than evidence of personal inadequacy, and understanding that progress is more important than perfection because consistent imperfect action will always outperform sporadic perfect action over time. The seventh destructive habit is the victim mentality disguised as justified frustration, where you focus more energy on explaining why things are difficult than on finding ways to make them better. This habit is particularly insidious because it often contains kernels of truth about real obstacles and unfair circumstances, making it feel righteous and realistic rather than disempowering and destructive. Yoshitsune understood that while external circumstances are often genuinely challenging and unfair, the moment you make those circumstances the primary focus of your attention and energy, you begin to train your mind to look for problems rather than solutions, to feel powerless rather than resourceful, and to identify as someone to whom things happen rather than someone who makes things happen. This doesn't mean ignoring real obstacles or pretending that systemic problems don't exist, but it means choosing to invest the majority of your mental and emotional energy in the areas where you do have influence and control, rather than in rehearsing all the reasons why success is difficult or unlikely. The warrior's path involves acknowledging obstacles honestly, while refusing to let them become your primary identity or excuse for not taking the actions that are available to you right now. I want to take another moment to speak directly to you, because I know that hearing about these habits might be bringing up some resistance, or even some shame about patterns you recognize in your own life. Please understand that every single person who has ever achieved real inner strength has had to face and overcome these same habits. And the fact that you are here watching this video and honestly examining your own patterns means you are already on the path to something much better. The key is not to judge yourself harshly for having these habits, but to appreciate that awareness is the first step toward change, and that every moment gives you a new opportunity to choose differently. The eighth habit that secretly undermines your inner strength is the addiction to drama and intensity, where you unconsciously create or attract chaotic situations because you have become dependent on the adrenaline and heightened emotions that come from crisis management, rather than the steady satisfaction that comes from consistent progress toward meaningful goals. This habit often develops as a coping mechanism for deeper feelings of emptiness or meaninglessness, because intense emotions, even negative ones, can feel more alive and real than the quiet contentment that comes from a well-ordered life aligned with your values. Yoshitsune observed that many people become addicted to the rush of emergency because it gives them a sense of importance and urgency that temporarily masks their lack of clear direction or purpose. But this pattern prevents them from developing the kind of steady discipline and patient persistence that real achievement requires. When you are constantly putting out fires and dealing with crises, you never have the mental space or emotional energy needed for the careful planning and consistent execution that builds lasting success and genuine satisfaction. Breaking this pattern involves learning to find meaning and excitement in steady progress rather than dramatic breakthroughs, developing the patience to work toward long-term goals even when the daily actions feel mundane, and addressing the underlying emptiness that makes chaos feel more appealing than peace. The ninth devastating habit is the inability to set and maintain healthy boundaries, which Yoshitsune identified as the failure that makes all other failures inevitable, because it allows external demands and other people's priorities to constantly override your own values and goals. This habit often stems from a deep fear of disappointing others or being rejected, but ironically, it guarantees that you will disappoint the most important person in your life, yourself, while also making it impossible for others to respect you because you have taught them that your time, energy, and values are negotiable. When you consistently say yes to requests that don't align with your priorities, when you allow other people's emotions to dictate your decisions, when you tolerate treatment that violates your standards because you fear conflict, you are systematically undermining your own sense of agency and self-respect, while training yourself to believe that other people's needs are more important than your own growth and well-being. Strong boundaries are not selfish or harsh. They are the foundation that allows you to show up fully for the commitments and relationships that truly matter, while protecting your energy for the work that only you can do. Learning to set boundaries involves getting clear on your non-negotiable values, practicing the discomfort of disappointing people when necessary, and understanding that people who truly care about your well-being will respect your boundaries even when they don't immediately understand them. The 10th, and perhaps most destructive habit, is the illusion of future readiness, where you postpone taking meaningful action on your most important goals because you believe you will somehow be more prepared, more motivated, or more capable at some undefined point in the future. This habit is the ultimate destroyer of inner strength because it trains you to believe that your current self is inadequate, while your future self will magically possess all the qualities and resources needed for success, creating a perpetual state of waiting that prevents you from developing those very qualities through present action and experience. Yoshitsune taught that the warrior's strength is built only through engagement with current challenges using current resources, because the skills, confidence, and wisdom you need can only be developed through practice, not through preparation for practice. Every day that you wait for better circumstances or more confidence is a day that you rob yourself of the opportunity to build strength through action. And the longer you wait, the more evidence you create for the false belief that you are not ready or capable of pursuing what matters most to you. The path to real strength requires accepting that you will never feel completely ready for the things that matter most, but choosing to begin anyway with whatever preparation and resources you have right now, understanding that readiness is something you develop through action, rather than something you achieve before action. Now that you understand these 10 habits and how they work together to systematically undermine your inner strength, you might be wondering how to begin the process of changing patterns that have become so automatic you barely notice them anymore. The key insight that Yoshitsune offers is that real change happens not through dramatic transformation, but through small, consistent choices that gradually retrain your mind and nervous system to operate from strength rather than fear. Start by choosing just one of these habits that resonates most strongly with your current situation, and commit to making one small change in how you respond when you notice that pattern arising. For example, if you recognize the external validation habit, you might commit to pausing for 30 seconds before seeking someone else's opinion on a decision you are capable of making yourself. If you struggle with emotional avoidance, you might commit to sitting with difficult emotions for just 2 minutes before reaching for your usual distractions. The goal is not to eliminate these habits overnight, which would only set you up for failure and discouragement, but to begin building the awareness and alternative responses that will gradually strengthen your capacity to choose differently when these patterns arise. Remember that developing real inner strength is not about becoming invulnerable or eliminating all struggle from your life, but about building the kind of resilience and wisdom that allows you to navigate challenges with grace while staying connected to your deepest values and authentic purpose. The habits we have discussed today are not moral failures or character flaws. They are simply patterns that most people develop as attempts to cope with life's inherent difficulties, but they become problems when they prevent you from growing beyond your current limitations and accessing the kind of strength that can only come from within. If this video has helped you recognize patterns in your own life that you are ready to change, I want you to take 3 specific actions right now. First, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss the practical wisdom and strategies that can help you continue building unshakable inner strength through proven philosophical principles. Second, leave a comment below telling me which of these 10 habits hit home for you the most, and what small change you are going to commit to making this week. Because your honest reflection not only helps solidify your own commitment, but creates a community of people supporting each other on this journey toward authentic strength. Third, share this video with someone in your life who you think could benefit from understanding these patterns, because sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the awareness that can help them break free from habits that are holding them back from their true potential. Your inner strength is not a luxury or an optional addition to your life. It is the foundation that determines whether you spend your days reacting to circumstances or creating the kind of life that reflects your deepest values and highest aspirations. And every small choice you make to build that strength is an investment in a future where you can face whatever comes with confidence, wisdom, and unshakable peace.